Hello and welcome to the first ever Yes podcast episode. And I'm here with Rod Kuntz, my partner and co-host for the show. Rod, are you excited?
Oh man, you have no idea. Well, you do have every idea, Jim. We get to do this weekly, and it has been an absolute blast. And to jump out into a whole new venue with our message and our vision to change not only the youth, but literally the fabric of corporate America with what we're doing. It's incredible.
There you are, outshining in the first 30 seconds of our new show. I love it. I love it. You know, what's interesting, Rod, is I posted yesterday on Instagram that we were going to have a podcast for the Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate. And I said, hey, if you got questions, shoot them my way. But I already had people commenting like, it's finally time. I can't believe you're doing it. Because if you've been paying attention, Rod and I run the Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate, which is a membership group for aspiring entrepreneurs. And we host a weekly Zoom call on Monday nights, 6 p.m. Montana time. And you can go to the link in our show notes here to learn more about that. Rod, you defined what young entrepreneurs are, and you just read it to me. Can you read it to our audience? Because I don't want any mistake about what we stand for, how we derive the name, and where this thing's going, because there's going to be a lot of great shows, a lot of great content, but there needs to be a foundational element, and that's one of the things we talk about. So shoot from the hip or from your notes.
I actually wrote the notes down when we first started the Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate, and we came up with the name. And
okay, wait. Now,
yes.
Now here's the thing, and this is not going to surprise you. I'm happy to admit this. Rod is very administrative, and he's great at taking notes, having notes, keeping bios, keeping notes for me. You know, and I think in every partnership, there's a yin and a yang, and Rod is definitely my yin or my yang, depending on what we're doing. So he actually wrote this down. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but people had to know, you know, the qualities that you possess, because I was constantly amazed by the things that you've been doing. So
Jim, you can always interrupt people if it's for a compliment. So thank you. I will take that.
All right.
And it's a symbiotic relationship, good partnership, great teamwork. And we actually train people on how to find those qualities in business partners. So here, let me get back on track. Webster's Dictionary defines young. That's the first thing, young entrepreneurs. And most people think young as being, you know, an early period of life or growth. Well, that's definition number one. This is what we are. Characteristic of youth in quality, appearance, behavior, fresh, vigorous, strong, lively, and active. And that describes me. That describes you, Jim. I know that we've been around a few decades. And
matter of fact, it describes more than half our current membership base. And
Yes.
They all asked before they got in, like, well, I'm in my 40s. Is that still okay? And I said, yes, because we're all young at heart, right? And really, that's what our motive was, right? We want people to be young and energetic in mind and body and spirit.
Absolutely. And I mentioned to you when we first got this thing going, I feel like a kid who just graduated from high school. And they used to do the themes, you know, for your class.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to go change the world now. And when I was a high school kid, I knew better. I knew I was too stupid to go out and change the world. But we've paid the dummy tax, as you've said many times before. And now I feel like that kid. I have enough information, enough knowledge, enough connections, and I've made enough mistakes to charge forward and know that we can make a difference. So that's young.
Right.
Let's move to entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, this is French for those of you who want to know. It's a person who organizes and manages a business undertaking. They assume the risk for the sake of the profit. And that's an interesting definition, but it's not even close to what I think an entrepreneur is.
Yeah.
I think an entrepreneur, I liken it to the explorers, the people who didn't know what was on the other end of the ocean, but got in a boat and went anyway.
Yeah.
The people who went to a new continent and didn't know what they were going to encounter, what kind of animals, mosquitoes, diseases, whatever, if they were going to fall off the edge. And they did it anyway.
Yeah.
They're explorers. And that is, I think, what an entrepreneur is. They're exploring. They're always pushing. They're not settlers. You know, there are people caught between being an explorer and being a pioneer. But explorers on the front edge.
You know, you make a really good point. People that are willing to fall off the edge. Right. And being an entrepreneur, being in business for yourself, you're going to fall off the edge a lot. And it's what you learn from falling off the edge and you know, what you garner and move forward with is how you're going to succeed. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I've said it a bunch of times with our group, life is hard, business is hard, working for somebody else is hard, and so is being an entrepreneur. It's also hard. But the reward of being an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is much greater.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And there's nothing wrong with working for someone else.
Yeah.
But just understand that you are building somebody else's legacy. And you can build your own while you're doing that. And we've actually branched out into a whole new venue with Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate, and we've started working with intrapreneurs. And you coined that term, Jim, I think. So you heard it somewhere?
I'm not really sure where it came from. I've been using it, though. I've been writing it. And I'm glad you brought that up, too, because I think that our objective here, not only in this show, but within our syndicate, is that we want to help people do either or, right? If you feel that you're compelled to be working for somebody else or working in a company for a long time and you want to be the best you can be, this is the spot for you, because we want to give you the tools to do that. Most people know in my network that I worked for In-N-Out Burger for 12 years. My brother worked there for 35 years. That is a place where you can be an entrepreneur. You do some work over at UPS right now. Mm-hmm. Another place where you can be an entrepreneur. On the other hand, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're in the right spot too. So I'm glad that you brought up both, because it's important. And I think we'll have fun with both as we go through discussions, especially in our daily findings on these shows.
Well, the world needs both.
Yeah.
We don't function just with entrepreneurs. We have to work within that paradigm. Interesting, though, I was listening to a podcast 2 days ago, and somebody mentioned the number one paying occupation in the world. Leaders. Not managers.
Leaders.
Not workers, leaders. And entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs are leaders. And so that's basically what we do, is we're into leadership development. And if I were to encapsulate what it is we do with young entrepreneurs, is we are training the next generation of leaders. And it's a big task, and it's fun.
You just mentioned you were listening to a podcast. By the way, I listen to podcasts. I'm really, as Andy Frisella says, please pay the fee. And what that is his shows are free. They don't advertise on his shows, and nor do we. But the fee is to tell people about a show. So I'm going to tell you about a show right now, because I listened to a great show this morning with him, and he talked about exactly what you're saying right now. You can be an intrapreneur and also a leader. There's nothing to say that you can't be a leader within the organization that you're working at, right? And I thought about that for a minute, like, wow, you know what? He's 100% right. And to expand on that a little bit, let's just say you work in a department, right? And it's lunchtime and you're sitting with your colleagues and you say, hey, look, everybody, I love my job here. I love what we're doing. I love working with y'all. Let's really do what we can to elevate this company and our efforts here. Let's make a conscious effort right now. Let's write on paper how we can all do a better job, at In-N-Out or at UPS, right? And collectively, all of a sudden, your department starts taking the lead, right? Well, there's probably 1,000 ways that will affect and prosper that company, including elevate your status within your executive's eyes and everything else. But you can be a leader within a company without having that crowned upon you, right? You don't have to have a leader after your name to take a leadership role in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely right. And I believe everyone is a natural leader. Mm-hmm. I believe that we are not meant to be here on earth and to settle. We're not settlers. We're not here to settle for second best. We're always supposed to be growing, moving forward, learning new things, becoming a better person. And sometimes you just need the right coach. You need the right tools. You need the right influence. You need the right friends. You need the direction. And so a compass and a map. Yeah. And that's what we get to do.
I went to dinner last night with the family. We went to a local chain, which we never do. First time in probably months, probably a year since I've been to that particular location because of COVID. And what I noticed is exactly what we're talking about in real life. Got in there, the hostess, was like, okay, how many people? I was like, all right, well, there's 4 of us.
Sorry.
Moped over. Yeah, sorry, I walked in your door to pay you money, right? I'll call your owner, tell him I'm sorry too, right? So, get seated and whatnot, and I'm looking around, and just the workers just were not like, you could tell they weren't interested in being there, which was unfortunate because I knew I was going to spend a bunch of money because everything's expensive now. But our server came with a shining, smiley face and a personality, and you can tell that she was a cut above every single other employee in that place. And it's like, wow, this person has created a little environment for herself within a team of people that didn't care, right? And what I love about that is that it doesn't matter to her what's happening amongst her peers. She's going to do the best she can. And you know what? I left her a 30% tip. And my wife's like, I remember back in the day, a $10 tip was good. I'm like, well, we're leaving a 30% tonight because I want her to know that we appreciate her service, right? So it doesn't hurt not only to be that person in your organization, but there is rewards for it, even if it's just the customer rewarding in the form of a tip, maybe some gratitude, maybe a letter to the corporate office, whatever it might be, or just the general satisfaction when you came home, you did a good job.
Well, I'm going to go a step further because those are the kind of people when I'm recruiting, right?
Yeah.
When I'm out looking for talent, those are the kind of people that get hired away.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people that people looking for leaders are looking for. So be that person that people are looking for. That's where the real gold is.
Yeah.
And if you want to get ahead, someone's going to find you.
Rod, true story. I hired somebody from Starbucks to work for one of my organizations, gave them a really good job because of the service they gave me at Starbucks. And way back in the day, for business, we were frequenting a really nice 5-star hotel. The valet team there they were a special crew. Like you pulled up, they knew your name, knew what you were there for. And they just knew everything. It always blew me away. And I hired one of them away for a 6-figure job. We're talking about valet to 6-figure because of the service that he was given being a valet.
Right.
I mean, you're right. Those people are the ones that get hired away.
Well, and again, that's getting back to what we do with Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate. We get to help people develop their characteristics, their value system. And when they understand why that's important and they understand how to tap into it, they become limitless.
Yeah.
And their value goes up. Their stock in trade goes up. Their value as an employee or as a leader goes up. And it helps change the world. We get to do that one person at a time, one listener at a time. On our shows, when we're doing Zoom meetings and we're doing counseling sessions and we get to coach people, it's just amazing. One question opens it up for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I was thinking about that, but I didn't want to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Be the person to ask.
Be the person to ask. That's a really good point. And by the way, these shows, since this is our first show, we're going to dig into all these topics as we move on. In future shows, we're going to talk about values. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about business plans and what works, what doesn't work, how to raise money, what investors are looking for, how to expand your business. We're going to give you some tools to do that. We're not going to give you all the secret sauce, but you're going to get enough to get it done. And this is going to be like listening or drinking from a fire hose because we're going to be throwing it at you. These shows will probably be 20 minutes. Again, I'm going to be looking forward to people reaching out, asking questions through DMs on Instagram. Rod and I are both active on Instagram. I've got a link tree on my account, so you can hit me up via email or through my website. But really, I want this to be as easy as possible, right, Rod? Like, hey,
absolutely.
You got a question, just hit us up in the DMs on Instagram, and we'll talk about it on the show. We want to help solve other people's problems or questions, have great topics to talk about, and have some fun along the way. Also, making relevant daily observations and bringing those observations to the show to talk about it because these things are relevant, instantly comes to mind, like what's happening in the economy, how do I adjust for business, inflation, all these other things. We've got an election cycle. We know come mid-November, things are going to be different than they are today, what that looks like and how we make twists and turns there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we live in a global society now.
Yeah,
one of the people who reached out to me when I pushed out the Yes podcast, right, was a contact of mine in South Africa.
Really?
Who said, "This is great, Rod. Thanks for sharing." And another he's a rap artist in Australia, and this is global reach.
Yeah.
And everybody is in their own economy, but everybody is doing their own thing. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now. If you aspire to do what you're doing better, or do something different.
You know what's cool when you talk about global? On my other podcast, the answer is yes. I've interviewed people from around the world, India, Australia, a few from London, Russia recently. I had somebody on from Russia recently. And what's amazing to me is business is still business. The principles are still basically the same no matter where you're at in the world. And I think what's happened is this melting pot that we've seen in the U.S. as it relates to business and cultures is happening around the world now. And what absolutely astounds me about that is your opportunities are endless.
Absolutely.
Endless.
Absolutely. And what it comes down to is business, all business is about people.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And who is it that always says business is personal?
Yeah.
It is. All business is personal. It's not just about a balance sheet. That's part of it. But who's doing that balance sheet? That's the personal part.
Yeah, and to kind of echo that point, when I raised capital for my tequila brand back in 2006, 2007, it was Azuñia Tequila. If you remember those days, we were right at the beginning of a massive recession. Obviously still talked about, maybe not as bad as what we're going into, but it was pretty bad. That wasn't the time to raise capital, I'll tell you that. At the end of the entire deal, we had over $12 million raised in capital for that business. The initial tranche was pretty sizable, around the $3 million range, and very quickly tapped into. The point I want to make about that is the investors said to me, they're like, Jim, good business plan. We believe this will work, and the financial model looks good, but we believe in you, right? The things that you've said, the things that you've done, we believe in you, so we're willing to take a financial risk in this business, right? And so like you were just saying, business is about the people behind it, the personalities, the passion, right? What they stand for, their ethics, their integrity, and all those things. Really, it's about the people.
It's always been about the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I get excited because people is our business. The Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate, everything that we've got our hands in has to do with people and our relationship to those people. And the good thing is we get to help them. And there's so much value in being able to elevate somebody.
Yeah.
Bringing somebody else up. And it's almost like starting with I'm a writer also, and I know you are too, Jim. We both have books, but it's something to start with a blank page and then to fill it up. And it starts with an idea. Usually it just starts with an idea, but you get to fill it up. And we're all that blank page. Even if you've been around a while, like I have, right?
What do you mean like we have?
I said I have. I left you out of that one. But it's one of those things that you can always redefine yourself. You can always redirect. You can always do better. You can always improve. You can always find your next page, your next chapter. Mm-hmm. And it's never too late. And to tap into that realization alone is not only mind-blowing, but it's life-changing.
Yeah. Well, just to wrap this up a little bit, one thing that I love about what we're doing right now, Rod, and by the way, if you're listening, take this advice for anything that you're looking at get involved with, or people that you're listening to outside of this show. Rod and I, we were both kind of tapering off in our business careers. I think we were looking at the sunsets, and then all of a sudden we hit the gas pedal and ramped up our business efforts again. We're in the middle of it. We are in the thick of business right now. We're doing and saying exactly what we're experiencing on a daily basis. You and I run two businesses together, okay? One on a Monday, one on a Tuesday, that are both expanding. Matter of fact, if you haven't heard, Rod and I are teaching a high school entrepreneur business class 3 days a week, which we're absolutely loving. So if you're one of our students, thank you for listening, and thank you for being who you are. We love teaching you. So the things that we're talking about, Rod, these are relevant today in business that we're going through. And by the way, like you said, that I always say, we paid the dummy tax.
Yes. And the other thing, I was thinking about that just this morning, Jim, with our regular Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate, right? With our membership base, we practice what we preach. And every week when we get on there, when we're bringing a lesson, we're bringing value for coach, develop, inspire, and we're doing it in our own businesses. So it's not like we're the old guys coming in saying, well, I learned this at a seminar, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Yeah.
These are things that you and I practice currently, right now, every day.
Yeah.
And we do. We're the doers. We're the practice what we preach. And if we fall and stumble, we're going to tell you while it's happening.
Well, we're not too prideful anymore to tell you about our failures and our mistakes and be honest with you. So I was reading an influencer that I know out there. I was reading his bio, and he's a coach, and he says, in my 38 years, I was thinking, man, he's just barely scratching the surface at 38 years. Give it another 10, 15, 20, and you'll know what it's really all about. So I'm pleased to be where we're at. I'm thrilled to be doing this show. I look forward to next Thursday. We're going to be recording on Thursdays, and then we'll have it produced and out to the masses as soon as possible off that. In other words, I'm not going to guarantee a day that this launches, but stay tuned, subscribe to our channel. Rod, we're just past the 20-minute mark. Any closing thoughts on what we're doing here?
Yeah, anybody, if you've got questions, tap in, send them in.
Yeah.
Look us up. Again, Jim already said we're on, you can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, just find us. Google us, you'll find us.
I think I operate best with questions. I don't know why that is. I just, I want to solve somebody's problems.
Maybe
right?
that's what it is.
Maybe So if you want to hit up Rod, or if you're not following him on Instagram, he's Warpath Alliance, and that's Rod Kuntz. And if you want to find me, it's Jim Riley Montana. This will be in the notes for the show. And if you can't tell, we're excited about this. We're just getting started on this new podcast. You can also catch us at the Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate. Join up if you're interested. If you like what you're hearing today, we'd love to have you. And until next week, Rod, thanks for being here.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.